Today is Thursday, June 13th, 2019, and you are Representative Sen Thompson, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, my name is David Boxer, and I have the pleasure and honor of interviewing you in connection with your receipt of the TCDLA Rodney Ellis Award for 2019, and we appreciate you being here.
It was an honor to receive that award.
Well, it was our honor.
Particularly after being named after such a prestigious person.
I understand. He is prestigious, is he not? I'm going to ask you some questions because this is an oral history.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody that listens to this will learn something from you. How did you get into politics?
Well, I was a school teacher, and I've always worked into politics a little bit, and there became an opportunity for me to run. That opportunity came about by Ann Richards' husband, David Richards, had just won a case in the state of Texas for single-member districts, because previously a person who ran for the Texas legislature used to have to run countywide. And he was able to show that if the single-member districts were in the state of Texas, particularly the larger urban areas, that would be an opportunity for a person to be able to have representation on issues that impact them. And I had that was a district drawn in an area that I lived, had grown up in, and I was just suited for that particular area.
And what, that's about 47, 48 years ago?
That's about almost 46 years ago.
Wow.
Long time.
You got elected?
I got elected, and I've been elected, blessed to be elected ever since.
I believe you are the longest serving female member in the Texas legislative history, correct?
And African American.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My pleasure. What is your biggest joy in serving in the State House?
Well, the biggest joy is the privilege of being able to serve and represent people who have confidence enough in you to believe that you're going to go down and represent their interests that impacts them, their family, their children, not only at that particular moment, but for generations to come. And to look upon it as a service, nothing that you're looking to make money out of or to become rich from. But like some people go on missionary fields to preach Jesus and save souls, I have an opportunity to go and help to shape public policy to be able to positively impact persons' lives. And this is my contribution to society.
Well, we applaud and salute you for that. You've served for so long, and one of the questions that Alan wanted to ask you was about talk about your experience with the various speakers of the houses through the years, because there's been a long litany of speakers, and you've been there longer than any of them.
Well, my first speaker was Price Davis Jr., and he was a very nice person to work with. But he made himself a lame duck speaker because he said, I'll only serve one term. And it was very difficult to get things done. During that first session. The subsequent year was the CONCON convention, the Constitutional Convention, and all of the members of the legislature were automatically delegates. And at the end of that particular year, we were not able to come out with a document. And then the next speaker was Billy Clayton. Billy Clayton was from a little town, Lamb County, Texas, and he hardly even spoke to African Americans. As a matter of fact, I remember walking down the back aisle, going to the microphone, and he recognized he was close to me, and he jumped away from me like a frog would jump on a June bug. The very next year, he was asking for my vote, and I ended up voting for him, and he turned out to be a great speaker. He really did. He had an opportunity to learn about other ethnicities and to be able to work with them and learn that they had a lot of common interests, common ideas, common needs, just like the other population. And he turned out to be a real good speaker. And following him was Gibb Lewis. Gibb Lewis was a big huntsman, as he still is now. Urban person, he was probably one of the more first urban person we had coming from Fort Worth. And he turned out to be a great speaker. I got to become a chairman under his leadership. And during that leadership, Rick Perry became a member of the Texas legislature and was a member of my committee when he was a member of the Texas legislature. Subsequently to him was Pete Laney, and Pete Laney was my classmate because when I came into the legislature, there was about 77 of us. Listen, Mr. Foxworth, there were so many of us, we didn't even have enough sense to know we could have elected our own speaker. we only needed 76 votes, and there were 77 of us.
Oh, right.
And we came in at the as a result of the Sharpstown scandal. You know, and it was just a huge, huge turnover, and a part of that had also been there. They'd been the Dirty 30s. You know, they were rebelling. Tom Crowder, who later became Speaker, was a member of the Dirty 30s.
Oh.
All of those things had been a part of our history, and Pete Laney stayed there about 10 years, and I became a chairman of the judiciary. Was able to do a lot of good legislation. We were able to pass a lot of good things. And you know, you get to a point in life, you think that society is evolving, particularly on issues that you think that surely these are going to be issues they're going to evolve on. One of them is race relations, you know. The other one is law enforcement, education. And education is, when I went in, there was a lawsuit, Rodriguez versus Texas. And you know what they were fighting about? Funding of public education in 1973. And in 2019, we still are working on funding of public education. Not because they increase the population so much, it's just been taking us a long time to recognize that we don't fund public education by zip codes, but we fund it according to what society needs in order to be able to maintain itself and to be able to push forward society forward, and looking forward at the kinds of jobs and technologies and education it's going to take to be able to have that kind of workforce, to be able to satisfy the persons that's going to be coming to our state to settle here for business purposes and to be able to maintain those businesses as well. We're beginning to get to that point. It took us a while, but I think that we may be on the road of that particular point.
I hope so, because I'm sure you'd agree with that. Our children are our future.
Absolutely.
And the teachers that are teaching those children are instrumental in teaching them the right things and approaching it right. And
Absolutely.
There needs to be funding across the board.
And their potentials, when we develop them, are attributes to society. And of course, after Pete Laney, became Tom Craddock, and Tom Craddock is a great guy. But he had such a dominating, controlling, almost a totalitarian kind of a relationship, and it didn't go over well with a lot of the members of the legislature. But as a person, wonderful guy. We're the best of friends. Masterful strategist, master politician. But he was just too ironclad, and you have to have some flexibility. He was a little too inflexible. And then subsequently to him became Joe Strauss, who I was instrumental in helping to get elected. And he stayed there 10 terms, and we were able to get some things done. And now we have Dennis Bonham, who was his Speaker Pro Tem. And I saw him come to the legislature, watch him mature into a fine young man, and he's had a very successful first term as Speaker.
Well, super. You served, obviously, in these legislative sessions, not only the speakers, but various governors.
Oh, absolutely.
So would you like to share your
Doc Frisco was the first governor.
Okay.
And, of course, we were pulling for Sissy Farenthold, and she lost what we consider a close race, but she would have been another first governor after Marl Ferguson. And he was a person who was from Uvalde, Texas. He learned a lot. He became open-minded, and I think the thing that helped him so much was his wife and him both worked as a team, and she was able to help him see things maybe that he had not had the experience or the opportunity to see, and he turned out to be a real good governor. John Hill ran against him at some point because he had been Attorney General, and John Hill we tried to come over in his camp, and he was a little resistant. He didn't, I won the primary. I got this, and I said, John, listen, you got to get through the general election. And there's no guarantee that you're going to win. I said, but you got to let the people come in who on the Briscoe camp to help you win. And he said, I think I got this. And then he lost to Clemens.
Mm-hmm.
And Clemens he was, you know, to be the first Republican governor in over 100 years or so, he wasn't too bad. He did the best he could. Clemens came in, and after Clemens came in, then Mark White came in, and that's when we got, you know, no play, you know, if you don't have your grades up, you know, House Bill 72, how would we ever forget that bill? You know, Ross Perot was a big instrumental in getting that educational bill through. He had a big part in it. And one of the things I think that stood out in the society's mind was that if kids could not achieve academically, they should not be able to play sports. And we thought, oh, how horrible. But then, when you really think about it, you wouldn't want a kid playing sports who could not read or write or handle their businesses or be able to function in society once their athletic career was over with. You would want that person to be educationally equipped to be able to function as a full person within society, and it had a lot of merit to it, and we thought that was good. And then Ann Richards came, and Ann Richards was great, but she didn't make it back. And George W. Bush he came in. George Bush is a people's person. He was a good guy. I don't think he ever knew a stranger. He could talk to anybody. Of course he had his agenda, you know. I used to tease him all the time when I first met him. I said, "You running for president?" "I'm just trying to be governor for you." I said, No, I can see you running for president. I can see it in you. And no, I'm not. But he was the kind of guy that you can talk to anytime. He may disagree with you, but he did it honorably and with humility. And you could work with him, and he was just an all around great guy. And after he left, Rick Perry came in, and he had some rough edges, but when he got those rough edges off, we worked with him. He was just tremendous. He was tremendous to work with. I hated to see him leave at the governorship. He had done such a good job.
You know, I represented him.
Did you?
Yeah, I was his sole criminal attorney on that bogus indictment that was in Travis County.
Well, you know, he and I are friends. He calls me every so often, and I know it's when it's him because I can look down and tell. I said, "This is Rick Perry calling me," and I'll answer the phone. And he said, "I said, Ron, yeah." I said, "I know who it is. How you doing with it?" You know,
he's an engaging guy.
Yeah, yes, he is, and his wife was just lovely.
Yeah.
He's very kind, very sweet, and the governor we have now is very good. He has a lot of experience, a lawyer, you know, knows a lot about what's going on, and I get along with him real well. But it's not like the relationship I had with Rick Perry. Close, but not quite. Because Rick is he's just another people's person. He's a genuine guy.
Yes, he is.
He really is.
And he knows so much Texas history.
And the only thing that bothered me was we had a deal that I never could understand until sometime later that fell through. We was trying to put a Texas it's something like not an embassy over in Taipei. They wanted to buy our beef. Mm-hmm. And we had lined up beef, man, from here to Kingdom Come. I mean, we had cows floating in there going over there to buy this beef, you know. So we was going to put up a Texas, not an embassy, but just a Texas facility over there. But the Chinese came. Chinese had something going on, and they was going to make a big investment in the state of Texas. And they kind of said, well, you know, if you do this because they are adversaries, you do this for Taipei, we're not going to do this. So we kind of got bumped, and we could not open up a Texas facility in Taipei, Taiwan. And I hate it because it would have been a big boost for our farmers. Mm-hmm. So that's my extent.
If you had to name maybe the top bill that you've carried or you supported in all your long tenure, what would it be?
Oh, that's so hard to answer that question.
I'm sure it is, but maybe the top couple from your personal perspective.
Let me tell you what. I had to pass legislation for women to get birth control pills, but when Viagra came along, insurance companies covered it without any legislation. And I had to pass a bill for HPV, which is human papillomavirus. This is a pap smear, and if you consider an advanced pap smear, and it can detect early cases of cervical cancer. And I tell you, this bill was over in the Senate, and there was a senator over there who was blocking the bill, just being mean. And I talked to this gentleman, he's a nice guy, and I said, listen, I said, you tagged this bill, and I was telling him what the bill does. And I said, I would appreciate it so much if you would not tag it, you would remove your tag. I don't know whether I'm going to move. I said, let me tell you something. Do you want to see your maker? I'm serious. That was one time I felt like killing somebody.
I can appreciate it.
I said, do you want to see your maker? I said, because if you don't want to see your maker, you better move your tag.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, right.
Yes, he did. Because that was just too critical. But when we passed the bill, on the House side, I passed a bill for racial profiling. And that bill stands out in my mind like the Michael Martin Act and all. And the reason that bill stands out in my mind, there's a guy named, one of my colleagues named Phil King. He came right up behind me and he said, he said, I'm going to speak for this bill that Ms. Thompson is carrying. And he began to give the reasons from his Anglo perspective and his experience as a police officer and as a lawyer as to why we needed that bill. You know, there's sometimes people that really stand up in spite of what may happen to them in that area of criticism and those sort of things. And he walked up and he said we should do this. And when I got up on the intellectual disability, developmental disability bill this session,
Right.
he came up on the back of the microphone and he asked some questions. Representative, is it true that all the district attorney association in Texas are in favor of this bill? And you know, he's done that, and those are bills that, you know, you can look back and think about. And the James Byrd bill, you know, one of the guys that I developed a friendship with, Warren Chisholm from Pampa, Texas. We were just opposite. There's two left shoes on the same foot. And he and I worked one weekend to develop a definition for how are we going to put a definition in and what should it be for persons who are considered HGBQ, you know, persons. And we put a sexual orientation definition in there. And his help on the floor opened up a window of relationship that we were good friends. We can call each other. Whenever he's in the Capitol, he always stops by and he visits with me. But I mean, it was just tremendous. And I have other persons that I can tell you that I've worked on bills and legislation like that. When we were hit with Harvey, I had Byron Cook called me, Miss T. It's raining down there. Bring your family up to my house. There's enough room for me, your entire family. You can come and stay with us as long as you need to get out of the weather, in case you need to. And I said, I thank you, but I got so many of my constituents are in bad shape, and I need to be here with them to try to help them out. But when I think about the James Byrd Act and the Michael Martin Act and the racial profiling and having to pass birth control pills for women.
That's incredible, that insurance.
And then we finally got equal pay passed, and then what did my friend do? My good friend he vetoed it. But that was because Macy asked him to do it. Macy's and Kroger's grocery store and them asked him to do it, and he did it.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah,
that's a shame. Too.
Yes, it is.
Well, there's no reason for that kind of differential.
But it's another opportunity to get it done. That's what I say. It's always another opportunity.
Okay. If you could tell our audience anything that you want, we haven't talked about yet, what would you tell them?
Oh, I would tell them that the greatest thing on earth is the gift that God gives you as an individual. And that gift is not a gift to be selfish with, but it's a gift to share with mankind. Not only to make your life better, but to help to make the other fellow's life better too. That's what I would tell them. And whatever you find out that should be, you should do it to help mankind to become a better humanity.
God bless you for being here. God bless you for what you've done. God bless you for what you'll continue to do in the legislature.
And I hope God always bless Texas and the United States of America.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
You're
Representative.
so welcome.
I appreciate it so
You
much.
bet.